and they were called the Pool Party.
Deadpool?
Yeah.
Deadpool movie that came out.
So there was a group of Deadpool cosplayers called the Pool Party, and there was one that was a girl, but someone told me it wasn't a girl; it's just a guy in a bra, dressed as Deadpool.
Gross.
That's the next level, bro. At least it was creative.
To this day, I don't know if that was true or not.
The Deadpool party?
No, the pool party was there. Like,
the pool party. Sorry.
Well, there was a girl or a guy.
Yeah, like no one really knows.
Oh, wow. Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah.
Say something, George.
Something?
That's crazy. That was one of his last roles.
Something.
Oh, there you go. So we're all good. I'm just gonna press record on this thing.
That was one of his last roles.
Did he get a heart attack from steroid?
Attack or a stroke.
Was it because of steroids? Like messing with?
Especially like wrestling is horrendous for your body.
Oh, of course.
Back in the day, like
Yeah.
the 80s and the 90s.
That's why, because Vince would make them take steroids. So I don't know if he was one of those.
The steroid trial that Vince got caught up in. Where he said all this is fake or whatever.
Because Randy looked massive in Spider-Man 1.
And Randy's body was like not.
No, but he was always really like fit. But I don't know if it was like steroid fit.
All right. I just had to press record on the podcasting because I got to post this on Monday. So, hey, what's up, everybody? And welcome to a new episode. And look who's back. George is back right now. Okay, well, let's not waste any time. Did you miss that, George?
No. I will never miss that theme.
It's a nice theme, man. So you're back now. Okay, can you fill in people on what happened to you?
I had a very bad case of laryngitis, or I just wanted to avoid him. But I physically couldn't speak.
I mean, it's.
I also wanted to avoid him.
Yeah. So what ended up happening?
Well, the first time I gave you notice. No, the second time I gave you notice. The first time I'm like, Tim, like I can't talk.
Yeah.
Which I kept wondering if I was gonna have to like send you a voice message to tell you I can't talk as proof. If not, so it wouldn't seem I was like, I don't want to do this today. Fuck you.
There is text, you know that, right?
I sent you text, but I didn't send you like vocal proof, like oral proof of me being like sounding like an 80-year-old smoker who smoked 6-packs.
And then you came by, and then
I still couldn't speak.
Yeah, you came by, you pick up your stuff, and then Lewis is like, "Oh, George, not gonna make it." I'm like, "Why? He's dying."
Well, didn't Lou say I had something else other than laryngitis?
Yeah, no, he said that you had laryngitis, so you can't talk. But the following week, he goes, "Oh, George still has laryngitis, and he can't walk."
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Oh, no, it does, because your lungs are connected to your legs, and that's what propels you to walk.
What? That's not true. I don't think that's
not true.
That's not how the human body works. If you have laryngitis,
you're married to a doctor, and you had to say like,
I don't think
you had a moment where you thought that was believable. You fool.
Yeah, I actually literally stopped for a second. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, so
what's really funny? The doctors didn't know why I had laryngitis.
What do you mean?
Like they asked me, this doesn't look bacterial or viral. Did you go to a concert recently? And I looked at him and I said, no, I haven't really left my house recently.
So what did they say?
They didn't know. They assumed it was
They
viral.
just kind of diagnosed you like you're sick?
They just knew what it was. They didn't know why.
That's kind of weird.
And they said, if it's viral, we'll call you. They never called. So,
and they never called. Oh, no. That's just stupid.
What was funny is my family knew I couldn't talk, but they always tried to talk to me. And they would ask questions that weren't yes or no or I could nod to. They would ask very extensive questions, and that just made my voice worse.
And then they like they stopped talking to you once they know that you could talk again.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah. Okay, so what happened this time? We were a little late on starting.
Oh, so this one is also on me because last night I met up with friends I hadn't seen in a few months, and they all decided poorly to go to Dave & Buster's. Yay!
Okay.
No, Arcade Aussie is better. And then they're like, why don't we eat at Dave & Buster's? Which I said, no. But we did anyways. And if you look at the Dave & Buster's menu, it's like a shitty Fridays menu. Like it's spectacularly a shitty Fridays menu. Like the pictures suck. The descriptions aren't appetizing. You're just asking to eat trash. But you know what? I picked the thing that looked best, which were the ribs.
So like this is not that bad. This is fine. I think I'll be fine.
And then the food comes late. It all comes cold. Everyone's meal was cold.
Right.
And I eat the ribs, which tasted like mediocre ribs with
Right.
a lot of fat.
Right.
And then I go home and I just wanted to die because the ribs settled poorly.
Oh my God, man.
I woke up the next morning also wanting to die. And that brings me here late because I wanted to die.
You're a very sick kid.
You know, I'm not a sick kid anymore. When I was 8, yes. Now, no. But now everything keeps hitting me to make up for like almost a decade of not being sick.
I feel like I should put you in a bubble.
I want to be in a bubble so I don't talk to people.
Oh my God.
I don't like humanity. But yeah, this moral of the story, if you're going to Dave & Buster's, eat before, don't eat there unless you're going to get drunk and not notice what's happening.
Or just don't go to Dave & Buster's.
Or don't go, which I wanted. I really wanted to
don't.
just go to Arcade Odyssey, but no one listened to rational decision making. You know what Dave & Buster's is? It's just games you could play on your phone on a big screen.
I never thought about it that way.
There's Fruit Ninja, there's Galaga, there's Pac-Man. The only thing worth playing is Basketball Connect 4, and I guess you could do that at home.
And you're paying money to do it too.
Yes.
Oh, damn, it is, isn't it? Damn it. Oh, if anybody's watching, and just in case, if you guys just see me like looking to the side, Marcelo's right there. He's watching. He's over there. Here's our moderator today. Okay, so today we're gonna talk about something that was very interesting that happened. So
I think you should explain the genesis of this.
Yeah. One. So the past weekend, Supercon came, right? Supercon came and it's under the management of Repop because Repop actually bought it out. If you guys don't know what Repop is the one who are the ones running New York Comic-Con and C2E2. So they bought out Supercon, I believe last year, but this event that happened this year was actually under the old management's planning, right? So although Repop is under the name already, but the planning was already done by the old management. So but next year it's going to be planned through and through by Repop. So that's actually going to be really interesting because that means that there's going to be more artists coming in, possibly more profile artists coming in, a little bit more celebrities coming in, right? So it's going to be really worth it going. A lot of people that went this year, they're like, oh, it's too expensive, and it's not even that much people that was there. Right?
Yeah, it was expensive to go on the weekend because it's $50 on Saturday.
Yeah,
50?
it was too expensive to go, and
actually, the cost is both ticket and parking, or parking and Uber. Unlike Tim walked.
I walked. So the reason why, so I walked from my place to the Miami Convention Center because I lived literally about walking distance. I lived an hour and 30 minutes away. If it was driving distance, I live 15 minutes away, so it's not far. But yeah, so it was too expensive. There wasn't even that much celebrity, and Greg Capullo pretty much canceled.
He had a good reason. His wife was sick.
Okay, so I've been telling this to people how the cancellation works in cons. They cancel ahead of time.
No, but he canceled like within the week.
Right. But they announced it the day before the opening night.
But I think he actually didn't. He canceled it, I think, before opening night because his wife got suddenly sick.
No.
Rosenberg was she got sick around the time the con was starting. Rosenberg was the one that canceled before.
Yeah. So when cancellation works in the con, what ended up happening is that they would cancel, but the convention, the promoters would not announce it, like not right away. They'll announce it like a week prior because they still want to get the.
He didn't cancel that much time in advance, though.
They still want to get the ticket sales. And whatnot.
No. They didn't know. Like his booth was there because he didn't know.
No. What I'm saying is that that's basically how it works, right? So if when an artist cancels, almost coming to it, just definitely keep in mind that they've already canceled like 2-3 weeks ago, but they're not saying anything because they want the ticket sales to go up because that's the main pull, right? So. I think that when the new management takes over, because I know they're planning it now, I think there's going to be more artists and it's going to be a lot better. Now, the concern is that it's going to be more expensive.
Dude, first of all, backtracking, the Greg Capullo thing wasn't weeks before. Like, he tweeted the...
No. I'm just saying this how cancellation works.
Yeah.
But he's a special case.
He's an exception.
Yeah, he's an exception. So, So essentially, what's going to happen is that it's going to be more expensive, right? For everybody, from vendors to customers. But the what you get from it is that essentially you get better high profile artists and high profile guests, I should say.
That's until we know. I don't know because
Well, I mean,
because Supercon isn't even the biggest in Florida.
I understand, but it's the management group that's holding it.
I know, but
if the management group that's holding
that's
it,
not what I mean. I mean, like, management can have the access to resources. That doesn't mean they'll utilize them because they'll think, oh, this is a smaller convention than the big ones. So why waste?
well, the main draw is Miami Beach.
Yes,
That's the draw.
yes,
It's Miami. That's why they moved it from Fort Lauderdale to here.
No. That's not why. It's actually different because they were in
Mhm.
Miami Beach, but the convention center had to be remodeled. They went to Fort Lauderdale
Right,
knowing
right.
they were going to come back. It's different.
So it's kind of like the Oklahoma City going to like where did they go?
It was Seattle to Oklahoma.
It was Seattle and Oklahoma,
Yes.
right? They moved because of the hurricane stuff.
No, they moved because like to the franchise.
No. There was a hurricane that happened, so they moved it a little bit for like one season.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember. Remember Chris Paul?
yes.
He was.
Oh, with the New Orleans.
No, New Orleans.
Yeah.
New Orleans. Yeah. Okay, never mind. It was New Orleans. So they moved it to Oklahoma for one season.
That was the joke with like Chris Paul going back to going to the Thunder. He was actually going back.
Yeah. So essentially, things are going to be a little bit more expensive. But in my opinion, first question of the day is like, I don't think that's a bad thing. What do you think?
I have no opinion because like I don't know if they'll think it, like I don't know what they think of the business model for Supercon because like here's my rationale. I was like, maybe they won't bring in artists because they realize why do it if a lot of people aren't going up to the writers or artists.
Well, let me put it this way. When I ask artists to stop by to the store,
yep,
one of the main draws that I always do is it's in Miami.
No, I know, but I'm not saying like in terms of how to approach the artists. I mean, like they might not even see the point of getting as many artists because there's no business incentive because people aren't visiting them. They're just throwing money at people.
Well, they could be.
Because like if you're using Supercon as a model, like how many people are going to look at the comic writers or artists?
Mm-hmm.
That's my argument. It's like I don't know what they're looking at.
But
because like a lot of conventions are now focusing on celebrities and voice actors to draw in people as opposed to comics people.
Which is actually a good segue to our main topic. Our main topic is, are ComicCons actually ComicCons anymore? So just a little bit of a background why we're talking about why ComicCons are not ComicCons anymore, or if they are, is George and I were walking around Supercon, and literally I've noticed 3 vendors.
To be fair, Tim wasn't observant. There's more, but they were really spread out and there weren't that many.
So how many did you see?
So there was Mario's Comics, Crazy Ed's, Greg White, the guy who has always discount comics. Then some of the toy vendors had comics. So you could say it's around 7 to 8.
7 or 8. Okay, 7 or 8.
There's probably more.
And estimate how many vendors were there. All in total.
But see, in proportion, they're small shit.
So there you go. So everybody else is. I told everyone this before it started. I said that people are just going to be selling pops and statues.
That's a shit ton of pops,
and there's just fucking pops everywhere, man. It's just so, it looks so fucking horrible, man.
And this is the funny part. If you like pops, that's cool. But if you go looking for
that's
pops,
your own thing, man.
It's not even the own thing. I love that in Supercon, there's no actual consistency in what prices you'll find. So like as someone that actually likes pops, I kept seeing the this is a baseline model. There was the Super Saiyan Trunks pop.
Yeah.
And then I would see it in 3 different vendors for 3 different prices. So there was $20, $35, $45. There's no baseline for vendors.
No, there isn't. It's just horrible. I mean, like, so essentially I was walking around and then the first thing I see was a good acquaintance of mine. His name is Dominic Glover. He's a official licensed Marvel and DC artist. His art is actually pretty cool. We have something coming up with Dominic. We're partnering up with him. But that was actually pretty cool. He was like in the main entrance. But then you start walking around, you find your regular, like the freaking weapons and shit, and then the t-shirts and all that stuff. But then all of a sudden a sea of fucking pop just started coming out of nowhere. And you're right, there is no consistency in fucking like pricing.
It's funny though, like a lot of people who are like hardcore toy collectors always bitch about pops because pops ruin some of the other toy industries.
You know what ended up happening is that everybody priced their pops based on how much they paid for the spots so that they can make their money back on it. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Okay, so anybody who feels like you want to be a vendor, either you're watching or you're listening to this podcast, I'll tell you this much. Okay, when you go to a convention, don't expect to make your money back. A convention, when you're a vendor and you go in a convention, essentially that is fucking advertising. You're trying to advertise your store. A lot of vendors tend to go to cons and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna spend $2,000 on a corner."
To be fair, there was one exception at that con. One of the anime statue
Yeah.
vendors, they sold all their fucking inventory.
No, they were fine. They were fine. They approached it in a business sense. Okay?
I know, but like, I was talking to the lady and she says she only sells at cons. Like they
Mm.
have no website, no store, and I don't know. Like that
Yeah.
was
And then
impressive.
and that's fine. If you don't have a website, if you don't have any website and you just go to cons, you can actually spend that $2,000 and make your money back. But for like brick and mortars,
Yeah, you're fine.
if you go over there and try to sell your stuff and be like, "Oh yeah, I spent $2,000 on a corner booth that's a 10 by 10," and then you expect to actually make your money back, like your business structure is flawed. Like if you go to a con, you're there to advertise.
To be
right?
fair, I think it's advertise or dump your stock, because a lot of stores will sell like the comics they don't want anymore in like dollar bins, and
Then-
people go to those.
Then basically you gotta have to approach it properly. So for example, a lot of people have been asking us, when are we gonna go to a con? Like everyone's been asking us that, because I think, in my opinion, I'm blaming Lewis. He leaked the fact that we had a big plan for a con. We were going to have 8 artists in 4 days, a signing, and then we're just going to sell like back issues, and that's about it, right? Current back issues. But the whole thing was supposed to be an experience for everybody to get a signing from an artist, right? And people are like, "How are you going to make your money back?" I'm like, "No, that is literally advertising money that I put. If you were to put it in accounting, in the T account, it would be under advertising. You know what I mean?"
Yep.
So I would not make any money out of it. I'm gonna make my money out of it somehow later on when I advertise. That's essentially what it is, right? So a lot of like vendors started complaining this year. They're like, "Oh, we didn't even make that much money. Nobody came to our booth." One, you're not advertising your booth when people are like walking through. You're just kind of standing there hoping that they'll stop and be like, "Oh yeah, I want to buy something." And even if they do stop, you just fucking overprice it. It's like you can't blame the con for your own faults. Like you gotta have to like look at your business structure and be like, "Okay, how am I gonna improve on it?" You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I mean, and then people are like complaining like, "Oh, I don't think I'm going next year now, because it's gonna be too expensive for a booth." I'm like, "Yeah, fucking of course."
Yeah.
Because you're paying for a booth for advertising. And then people just tend to, I think the reason why people tend to just basically sell pops is because they think that people can just buy in bulk.
Yeah.
And then they can get their money back from that. So everybody just sells pops and statues.
Yep.
And possibly t-shirts.
Yep.
And swords. The weapon.
No, because like when people turn 18, that's like a rite of passage. Oh, it's fucking time to buy a sword now. No one's gonna buy a sword for me.
Every time I pass by one of those sword booths, I think of
you know what sword booth is? Almost, it's like the equivalent. Like, fuck, I never cared for alcohol, but like for people, it's like drinking. It's like when you turn 21, you can drink. You don't have to use a fake or like someone else buys for you.
Yeah,
that's what the sword booth is. It's like, holy shit, I'm 18 now. No one has to buy a sword for me.
I feel like when you turn 21,
Yeah. So
I never gave a shit, but for some people, like it actually, like if you're in college in dorms, people like ran that shit off.
They do that mostly when they're not 21. Once they turn 21, they give up on it.
So Marcelo is saying that when you turn 21, you get like a sword. And so you every time I see like a sword booth in the convention, the first thing I think about is Knocked Up.
Why?
You remember that scene when they had an earthquake and she was like rummaging through like stuff?
Yeah.
And then she sees like, "What is this?" It's like it's a weapon. It's my weapon. That's what I think of. But no, like walking through it, I don't see any comic books at all. There, like again, you saw a few more than I did.
But but I think also like the crowd doesn't help that situation, because like if you look at the crowd, I don't know how many of them care for comics, and like it's a little rough because Nick Spencer, who's like writing Amazing Spider-Man, wouldn't get huge lines. Charles Soule wouldn't get like they had people going, but like a lot of these people. So I think it's also the crowd. I don't think the crowd wants the comics.
So So you and I were talking to Jeff DeCal about this. Yeah, we were at Jeff's booth and we were talking about it, and Jeff made a point. He's like, Miami's just weird, man. It's just kind of weird because when I was walking through in there, I cannot believe the fact that these artists who essentially you would die to go to con for are empty. Like Jim Starlin was empty.
But you know what's the saddest part, and it fucking killed me. Keith Giffen was there. I really like Keith Giffen stuff.
Yeah. So
people were going up to Keith Giffen just because he created Rocket Raccoon. They wanted to talk about Rocket Raccoon the movie. And he couldn't give a shit. And that's not the character he made. He made a comic book character. No one was talking.
Was anyone talking about how they're going to kill him off later?
No, like they didn't talk about the comics. They just were talking about Rocket in the movie, except like some of the older dudes. But like that made me so sad that people are going up for the and like it's nice that the characters get recognized and people go to see the creator. But like I remember seeing this kid, and he just kept talking to Giffen about Rocket in the movie, and Giffen had this face of like, I couldn't give a shit. Like, I don't watch the movies. I don't care.
To be fair, was it early in the morning?
No, that's the thing. It wasn't early in the morning, and it was first day of the convention.
He's like, I don't fucking care.
Like he was being nice. He didn't do the I don't fucking give a shit thing. But he was basically being polite. It's like, yeah, I don't watch the movies. Like, yeah, and I was like, oh man, like. And then in my eyes, I'm not seeing Keith Giffen, the guy who made Rocket. I'm thinking of like Keith Giffen, the guy who drew Legion of Superheroes. Keith Giffen, who co-wrote one of the greatest Justice League runs.
Yeah, he did.
And then there's just this fucking kid going like, I love Rocket Raccoon when he's with Bucky in the movie shooting up stuff. And I was like, oh, fuck.
It was just one of those things where like, Keith Giffen was somewhat empty. Jim Starlin was definitely empty.
Jim Starlin had like consistent, but like it wasn't huge. Like
it wasn't huge.
I know
there should be a lineup for Jim Starlin.
I know, like this is the guy that fucking killed Jason Todd. This is the guy who like wrote some of the best comics ever.
Yeah, and then you had Robbie Rodriguez, fucking Spider-Gwen, dude.
But like it blew my mind sometimes. Like there was Raphael Albuquerque. One of the best fuck you'll ever find, both as a storyteller and as a cover artist, doing sketches, and no one visiting the booth. And I was like, what the
he did Swamp Thing, right?
No, he did American Vampire. He did All-Star Batman. Yeah. He's doing Prodigy now.
Yeah.
And Huck. And I just kept thinking like, that's rough.
And then he's like empty.
Mind you, like he got to draw and I watched him draw and it was the most fucking mesmerizing thing.
Yeah.
But like, these people aren't going to see like some of the greats or like people who are and you could say like, oh, maybe like we'll keep Giffen it's old school, and I totally buy that argument because no one gives a shit about history anymore. But then I go to see like Nick Spencer or like Charles Soule, and their booths aren't that, or Steve Orlando, like their booths weren't that heavy,
and these guys are like writing one of the best books today.
So you have like Charles Soule, who's done like amazing work on Daredevil, Darth Vader. No one was signing any of it.
He was the one who said Darth Vader's father was...
Well, he didn't say it.
Well, no. He's the one who wrote it.
Yes, but people might have misinterpreted it, and he doesn't comment, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But, like, no one was going up for, like, that much of extensive stuff. And Steve Orlando has really good comics out. He has Martian Manhunter. Nick Spencer is writing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
No one was going to those people, except people who wanted to get, like...
Steve McNiven was there, too, as well, and I was surprised how empty he was.
That fucking killed me.
He's doing one of the best artists right now in Marvel. Right now,
he's probably one of the best Marvel artists the last 20 years.
Yeah, and he's exclusive to Marvel too as well.
And then like people are just like going up, getting a Civil War trade signed, leaving, and then there's a couple of people like that would stick around and talk. And like honestly, one of the nicest guys at the convention. If you ever get a chance, talk to Steve McNiven. Nice guy.
Steve McNiven is amazing, man.
He's such a fucking nice man. So he's so class.
Just context wise, if you guys don't know, Steve McNiven is actually Canadian. So when I was talking to him, I got super Canadian.
Yes.
Like we started talking about streets in Canada, like no one like,
and the Raptors.
Like you were there, you were standing, you're just like, okay.
Because I had talked to him the days before and I had long talks with him.
Yeah.
So I was like, fine, be Canadian. I'm just like,
we were talking about the Raptors and like how much we fucking love Raptors and shit. And then
not next year.
Dude, league's open, but that's a different topic. But we were talking about like how much we love the Raptors and all that stuff. And like he knew the school that I went to, which was amazing because every time I tell people what college I went to, people are just like, oh, okay, yeah, because it's not known here, right? But when I told him, he's like, whoa, are you serious? I was like, yeah, man, because the college that I went to is actually a very well known college in anything that's computer animation, cinematography, movie. The reason why is because in 1992 there was a guy who invented the liquid metal for T2 that came from my school, right? And T2 was one of the best sequel movies ever made, right? And they won an Oscar, and the Oscar is still hanging in our school. And not only that, but everyone who was in animation in my school either went to industrial arts and magic or went to Pixar. And not only that, my school got
it's ILM. It's not arts, it's industrial light and magic.
Oh, industrial ILM. Yeah. And then it got so popular, the school got so popular that I don't even think you know this or anybody know this, but anything that is unfinished and that needs to be finished quickly, they outsource it to my school from Pixar and ILM.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So there's like a building there. There's a section of a building with a bunch of rooms that just says no entry. Like you cannot be within 10 feet of that because it's like exclusive projects.
Yeah.
That's not even coming out yet.
That's really cool.
So it's actually pretty cool.
And you're here.
And and I run a comic book store. So
an esteemed alumni.
Yeah. There's a trombone sound here somewhere. I don't know where it is. But yeah, no, I started talking to Steve McNiven, and then he was amazing. And I started talking to Jim Starlin, who was amazing. John Betty was there too.
Yeah, so was Mike Zeck.
And Mike Zeck too as well. So they were telling me. So I was talking to them, and they were telling me that essentially they kept signing Secret Wars 8.
Yep.
Because apparently there's a rumor going around that's where Spider-Man's heading.
That also made me so sad though, because like Mike Zeck's also one of those really classic artists, and everyone's just there to CGC a fucking book. And then, like, you had a handful of people, like, and to his credit, they both had people routinely ask for sketches, but then it was just like, hey, can you sign this? Can you sign it? I was like, oh.
And they're like they're the artists, like the art, his art has evolved from like what 30 years ago to now. It got better. In my opinion, it got better. Like his shading got better.
Sure.
Yeah, his shading got better. His lines got better.
But it's almost like it's so sad. And I guess like you can either say it's like either a commentary on comic conventions or a commentary on society that doesn't give a shit about antecedents. But like one of the things that killed me was Michael Golden had a booth. And for those of you who don't know, Michael Golden is one of the co-creators of Rogue.
Yeah.
And he worked on Micronauts, which was an 80s series. But Michael Golden is one of the really influential artists. Like he influenced like McFarlane, Quesada, and a lot of those 80s guys like Art Adams too. His booth was empty, and the only thing they kept advertising was co-creator of Rogue, worked on Star Wars.
Yeah,
and I just kept thinking that's so sad. Like that's what his legacy, like a person's legacy, is almost reduced to, is like two things instead of like this is the guy who drew some of the most beautiful comics at that time.
Yeah, Kyle Higgins was also empty. I mean, like to me, I'm like I don't care. I'm like I freaking said it. It's not like we're a big podcast freaking show, anyways. Kyle Higgins is a dick. Man,
never met him, so I don't know.
I met him like in MegaCon. Like I tried to talk to him and whatnot. I tried to be like enthusiastic because like that's
what if he was having a bad day?
No, because that's when like Shattered Grid came out.
Yeah,
right. Shattered Grid came out, and Shattered Grid was like one of the best like storylines that came out last year. Right, they're following it up now with Necessary Evil. But I came up to him and I just start talking to him, but he was just kind of like a dick.
Was he having a bad day?
I don't think so, man.
How late in the convention was it?
It was in the afternoon.
First day or second day?
Saturday. It was a Saturday.
I'll be fair. No one's their best on a Saturday.
It was a Saturday, man. Like, and he was just being a dick. So I don't care if he was empty. He's like fucking karma, man. Because I was talking to him. I wanted him to come to the store. Like this is before he got really big. So, but whatever, man. But Steve Orlando, one of the hardest working person in cons.
I know.
Like this man, when you see Steve Orlando in cons, he's just like fucking everywhere, man. Like he'll stay and like sign. He's like Michael Turner.
But I felt so bad for him because like his booth went, like people weren't going to the comic site a lot, and you'd see him just hop around between booths to talk to people. And I was like, oh, at least he got some freedom. Fuck.
Yeah.
like that booth, like anyone's if you're a comic artist and you're in a booth, that's a sell.
So like it's just kind of sad because ComicCons nowadays are not becoming a comic convention anymore. They're just more like, I'm just gonna sell pops. It's like I think what's killing in my opinion, what's killing the convention scenes are brick and mortar stores thinking that they can make money off of it.
Really?
Well, because what they'll do is that, okay, I'm good. So each booth, okay, so I'll
Wait.
recap.
In all fairness, which conventions and which are you referring to?
I think majority of them.
You think it's the brick and mortar?
Okay, so let me explain. Okay, so basically, when you go to a convention, when you're a brick and mortar, just like this store here, what you do is that they'll present you with a plan or a package on how to get a booth. This table here is like a what? It's like not even a 10. This is a 10. Yeah, there's 10 feet, right? This table is 10 feet. So a 10 by 10, right? A 10 by 10 that you're beside somebody would cost you about $1,500, $1,900, depending on what convention it is, right? If it's a high profile convention, you're probably paying like $1,900.
Dude, it apparently can go as high as $3,000.
To $3,000. Now, if you have a corner 10 by 10 or 20 by 20, that means that you're in a corner and you go around this way, right? So that means that if you're in the corner, you have more visibility to people, right? Because they have to turn a corner or they have to like pass by like a intersection or whatnot. Those can cost to about $2,000 to about $3,000, depending on the convention itself, right? So what most brick and mortar would think is that, okay, well, if I have a corner booth and I spend X amount of dollars, let's just say $2,100, right? And I bring a shitload of pops and a shitload of statues, I can make my money back.
But to be fair, like you're putting the impetus on the brick and mortar, but like you don't know how much of that's trends. Like, so one of the things I was looking up last night is a lot of from the other side of like some of the comic dealers, and they're saying that like people don't even go for the comics anymore. So like what, like you're saying, like I think that's a fair point, but I think that's just symptomatic of a bigger problem because like the convention scene itself has changed. Because no one goes for comics. And like if you look at look at Supercon, no one was going to. A lot of people weren't going to the comic vendors. A lot of people weren't going to the comic creators.
Well, this is where my beef with that comes in, because this store, if you come to the store, if you haven't come to the store, we do everything else that a comic book store does, but we deal literally strictly with majority of our stuff is comics, right? So essentially, what we did is that we put a lot of interest in the comics because the staff in here, including myself, are very passionate about comics, right? If we weren't passionate about comics, people would not come in. True or not true?
Not true.
How so?
I don't give a shit if people are passionate. I'll just fucking buy my book.
Okay,
like,
you're a different case.
But no, but I think a lot of times that's
Yeah.
not always true
Yeah.
because and it's symptomatic of our generation. People don't always go like this could also just be an outlier, but a lot of people don't go to buy things and they have relationships with the vendors. They don't give a shit. They just want something to access their thing.
But here's the thing though.
That's more of a thing that's coming up in recent market trends.
But here's the thing though. If you put emphasis and you put excitement on something that someone's a little bit interested in, you'll definitely garner that interest.
You will build a relationship.
Yeah,
yes.
you'll build a relationship on it. But if all you do is that, I'm not going to sell comic books because nobody, and you kind of just give up on it.
But that's an unfair thing because you're extrapolating that the people who like that, because when there's a comic store, you're seeking out the comics, correct?
Yeah.
Because it's a fucking comic store. What else are you going to look for? But like with the convention, because there's so much variety in what's there, not everyone goes for the comics anymore. Like if you look at what like extrapolating from my observations at the con, people went for like anime voice actors, celebrities, anime stuff.
Yeah.
Like why like my argument is like why bother with the comics? Like as someone that likes comics, I can like it's sad. Like,
well, you gotta have to put an emphasis on it. Like you can't
you don't though.
Like what most vendors are just saying is that, okay, I'm gonna post up in here and whoever comes.
But some of those vendors aren't being honest with what's trending right now. Like if you look at so one of the things I was looking up is San Diego Comic-Con. One of the vendors who's been there since the first show isn't going anymore because people don't go for comics anymore.
Yeah, but you gotta have to adapt to your business structure has to adapt.
He kept changing. He kept downsizing and downsizing and like you kept saying like because you like not every if a convention. these are called comic conventions, but they're not comic conventions anymore.
Mhm.
They're pop culture conventions. We call
Yeah.
them ComicCons because that's like the nomenclature.
Yeah.
But they're not Comic-Cons. Like,
so what's
like
happening?
you can't you can blame the
If-
vendors for being like,
if you're gonna give up on it, in my opinion, if you're gonna give up on it and be like, okay, well, nobody gets comics anymore, so I'll just do this. If you're gonna give up on it, of course, it's gonna start dying down. But if you,
it's not just giving up on it. Like if you're there for 40 years, I
Yeah.
think you can pick up on trends on what people want and not.
no,
Like Mile High Comics was going to
Yeah.
Comic Con for like 40 plus years, and they
Right.
pulled out.
Mhm.
They had a business model. They kept changing the business model. It doesn't always work.
If you change the business model based on what is trending and what's
No, it's not necessarily being
Because-
but you have to adapt. Like,
because the thing is, and what I discovered in here is that when I have parents come in, they would say, okay, well, I used to read books, I used to do this, and I want my kid to actually read it too as well, right? When you do that, that's basically how you pass down generations, right? But if you don't adapt, like let's just say on a Comic-Con aspect of it, and you go, okay, well, people just go for pops, I'm just gonna get pops. But if you actually hold true to what you're doing and say, I'm gonna sell comic books and I'm gonna do this and get people excited about it, you can get people.
I don't think that's fair though, because some people, what if people go to the convention not giving a shit about comics? Like a lot of that's a problem too, because a lot of people go to conventions watching the movies, loving the characters, not reading a single issue. And I think that's symptomatic also of Supercon and of other conventions.
So is it true that, can you agree that if you go to convention and not looking for comic books, you're not really a comic book fan?
If you're not looking, well, you don't have to go to a convention and look for comics to be a fan. Like you're just adding like a requisite. It's like, what's a real fan or not?
Well, I mean, like
you can go to a convention and be a fan of other things. And like one of my really good friends went to Supercon and hates comics.
Yeah.
Like he likes manga and he likes anime, and that's what he goes for. People go to cosplay and for community.
Yeah.
Like you don't go for comics anymore.
Yeah. So let me put it this way.
Like in all fairness, comic conventions aren't even about comics and never have been. It's about community and people finding people that like what they like.
Because
and I think that's part of no, seriously, comics might not be for every if comics aren't in vogue anymore, people still go to these for the community. It's sad that comics aren't in vogue anymore, and that was what started it. Yeah, but you can't always blame the vendor for saying like they're adjusting, because they need a buck too.
No. I think that they should adjust to it, but don't completely take it out. Because like if I go,
if you go, what happens if you go and you don't make any money and you don't even advertise?
But you're supposed to advertise.
You advertise.
You're not going to make any money.
That's long-term planning. What about the industry itself?
What I'm saying is that vendors tend to go there just to make money. That's the thing. You're going there to make money. You're not gonna make your money.
Yeah, but
there's no way.
In some of those conventions, considering how steep they are, they need to make something.
The only one that I've known that possibly, and we gotta have confirmation on it, possibly can make money off of it, is Greg Horne. Maybe his booth is always full. His booth is always full, just because he sells like his stuff from the discount price and all that stuff, right? Like he was in MegaCon. He was literally about 2 booths away from Tyler, and he's always full.
But I don't think people even get his art because they're comic art fans, because he draws like people go at cons and buy art. So
why can't you be a vendor, a brick and mortar vendor, and get people excited with the comic book art?
Because in that, the art speaks for itself and sells. Like comics, I think there's a little bit more leeway to go. It's a little harder.
In my opinion, that if vendors go in there and they have a mind frame of, I'm gonna go over there and get the word out about my store, you'll be okay. If you go in there and you have a mind frame that I'm gonna try to grab as much money as possible because look at all these people, then you gotta have to change your business.
But while I think that's fair and I think that's a really valid point. What happens if people just couldn't give a rat's ass and don't even walk by you? Like, I think that,
at least
there's your point is valid and I agree with it, but there's a certain presumption in that point of people going up within a radius to be approached. Like in a lot of the comic vendors, people don't care and walk by it.
Completely fine. That's why, just on a side note, that's why if we ever go to a con, my business structure in terms of advertising is different. I'm not depending on people to just come by and walk to me. I'm telling them to come to me, because if I have all those artists, if I ever had 8 artists, 2 artists in 4 days, people will come.
Depends
to
on the artist.
Yeah,
I
get it. Yeah, I get it. Depending on the artist, but the thing is, my structure is instead of people just walking by me, I'm gonna mold it as people will come to me. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like Greg Horne. Greg Horne's structure is that I'm going to sell my art, my great looking art, for a cheaper price. People will come to me, right?
People don't get his art without knowing who Greg Horne is.
I know. Yeah, they're just like, oh, do you know what this is? Like, yeah, he's over there.
Or it's like, oh, like some guys like, oh, I just want a really attractive looking girl drawn.
Yeah.
It's like,
but if you go to a convention like that and you're a brick and mortar, you have to devise a plan for people to come to you instead of just thinking, okay, well, they're going to pass by, they're going to stop.
And I don't disagree, but what happens if you have a product no one wants? Like, you can get people excited only so much. Like, people have to have some interest already in that.
I understand too, but what is going to benefit you if you become a sheep and just do the exact same thing as everybody else?
I'm not even talking about being a sheep and doing everyone else. I mean, you like talking about consumers who couldn't give a rat's ass about comics. Like that's what I mean. I'm not saying it as a sheep. I'm actually just saying like they might not have an interest. Like
that's why
like convincing people depends also on that person having a certain level of like doubt already.
Yeah. Well, which makes sense. That's why the way I approach it is different. Do you see how it's different? I'm not relying on selling comic books. I'm relying on people's experience. That's why I'm doing like a signing.
But that's also still presumption on that person having experience. Like, even if you're creating an experience, that person wants that. They need to want to have the experience, and that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, like, well, you just have to make the experience. That's the thing.
Supercon made an experience, and people weren't going up to it. That's what I mean. Like, people were going to the Supercon for other things. They weren't like the experience of signing was there.
Well, to be fair, like, it just seems like, I don't know if you agree with this. It seems like, you know, the past promoter was on his way out, so he just didn't put any effort in this one.
I think even in past years, it's kind of been sort of similar.
Yeah, no, we talked about it. You said it's like a garage sale and it's kind of raunchy. I get it.
But in all fairness, like, it's also like consumer trends. Like, it's like, why do people go? I don't know if the comics even like for those people, they don't go for comics anymore.
Yeah. Okay, Marcelo, you could have just said that. Marcelo commented, it's like when corporations pay to have their names on sports arenas. So
it's just advertising.
It's just
money.
Yeah,
it's just advertising. Yeah, it's just advertising. That's all it is. You go over there to advertise. That's why you see all these things in like San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah, there's not that much comic books in there because you have corporations just advertising.
But that's the point of that con. It's almost like an advertising thing, but it's not for the comics.
No, but they see the structure and what you should be doing in the con. That's the thing.
It's not just seeing this. Yeah, but like, look at what's the stuff being advertised. Like, the comic panels aren't the ones that are as big as the Hall H panels about movies. Like, even there's an awareness that comics aren't the dominant thing, and they probably shouldn't be from a business perspective. If you want to thrive as a convention, you need to be like, you at least need to have awareness what people like, unless you're doing a comic specific convention, just targeting comics.
Which
like
actually
Heroes Con.
Which actually, it's funny though. Just on a side note, Torpedo Comics is actually going to have their own convention for comic book collectors only.
Yeah, but I think that by framing in that way, you get rid of the presumption it's a Comic-Con in the traditional sense, and not which is really just an entertainment con, and it's really about comics.
Because that's when Comic-Cons first started, right? In New York, somewhere in New York, right?
They started in New York in the 60s,
and it was all about comics and everything.
Yeah, but it's not just about comics. I keep saying it. It's about community.
I understand,
like, you're looking for the communal experience of being able to share. So
why not give that community an experience instead of selling stuff?
Because I don't think that community, at least in Miami, is there as much. Like, it's not as big as, like, I'm not saying it's not there in terms of it's non-existent. I just don't think it's as big as it would be in other places.
You can't blame that on it's not a big community, because I think the community is here, right? It's just that you have to extract it away. You just got to extract it. You got to smoke it out. That's the thing. Like, for example, when I first started this store, I wanted to focus on supporting cosplayers too as well. Yeah. I was having a hard time finding them. I had to extract them out. Right now we've been following, and then we've been supporting a lot of more cosplayers.
You get all those cosplay. Yeah, it's probably more cosplayers than comic fans.
Yeah, there's a lot of cosplayers here. But my point is that they're there. You just have to extract it out.
You can extract it, but I'm telling you that number is not going to be the same as anime fans or pure cosplaying. Yeah, like, I don't think that number will be there.
I think the number is there. That's the thing, because on a daily basis, I have people coming in here based on what they've heard from their from their friends. They're like, oh, I got, a friend of mine told me about this place. You have kid-friendly books too as well. I want to get my kids into comic books too as well. They're there. It's just that they're just not putting in the time. Is that fair to say? They're not putting in the time that they used to.
I think so, but I think it's because they find like the other one's going to be more prevalent, which it probably is.
What do you mean?
Like, I think the other like facets of fandom will probably be easier to draw because it's much more marketable and there's more of them. Like, I agree, they're probably not putting in the time, but if you put in the time and got those numbers, like monthly, let's do like a monthly game. 100,000 people. Will read an issue of a comic, and this is a good selling issue. This has to be a fucking top 10 book.
Like
100,000.
Dark Knight's Metal.
Sure, whatever the fuck. But that's 100,000 copies, right? So what? A TV show gets 2 million viewers, and that's recorded. I'm talking about like a CW show, and that's like the kind of people Supercon. Yeah. I'm talking about Flash. Flash gets 2 million views. Yes, it does. It's gone from most of it. Now it's dropped to
look it up, Marcelo.
Trust me, I look at these. I watch all these shows.
Yeah, but he's a moderator. Look it up. He's our moderator.
That's my point. It gets 1 million plus.
Yeah.
Whereas a comic gets 100,000. So a BC list celebrity from a TV show is not even.
But here's the thing, though. As a brick and mortar, if it's something like that and you get that much fandom on it, you should definitely ride that wave and actually use that as advertising.
What happened to the sheep comment? Now you're saying ride that wave.
No. I meant like What I meant is that use that popularity, right? And ride that wave and promote the comic book, not the toys.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because most people are just like, oh yeah, the new season of Flash is, we have pops, you know, or like, oh, the new season of Flash is here, we have statues.
But then like there's what? I know I'm right. No, I know, but I look up the thing, and if you look up the account for DVR, it's going to be in the millions, and then you have to account for streaming platforms. But it's easier to get those people as opposed to the comic people, because the comic people are limited because it's 100,000 spread out. And then you can account for pirating, which will probably be like another 30,000 or whatever in trades, maybe another 20 or 30,000.
So someone's comment says he never really goes to cons anymore. Bascow says that I never really go to cons anymore. There's certain appearances. He's there for certain appearances. Like a Greg Capullo when he canceled. You know what I mean? So I mean, that kind of comment, like he's there for certain appearances, tells me that he is a comic book fan.
Depends. You're extrapolating. He could.
Okay, he's not.
To be fair, he could be. He probably is because he's listening to this shit. But like,
he's not going to be like.
Dude, but semantics wise, like you don't know what he's a fan of. What's the appearance of?
But he's not going to be like, I'm going to be going to a comic book convention because I have a 12-inch statue of Flash and get Grant Augustine to freaking sign it.
He could actually.
Like he's just walking around like this. No, it is. The book itself doesn't make as much sales.
Yes, that's actually what the comics. So that's the issue.
I think that's like now the comic book source material for like the ideas of the movie.
But
for source material, which is true.
No. It's not that it's a little bit more source material. What you mean though, to like articulate it a little clear, is that like even though it's a source material, the source material isn't as relevant as the thing that's being created out of it. So more people will watch Game of Thrones than read the book. That's what comics is, and a lot of writers will talk about. That's the issue with the industry, is that movie A makes like $1 billion, but comics do not see any of that like increase. And what I was reading online is that a lot of times they will read the trade of that story, but they won't be they won't maintain a certain following. They won't be a month to month or a Wednesday Warrior.
Yeah, because most brick and mortar doesn't know how to ride that advertising.
I don't know if it's just advertising or no one knows how to articulate a way to jump in easier.
I've been utilizing it. When the movie comes out, I've been utilizing it.
I know, but like, I mean, like
let me put it this way: every time there's a movie coming out for Marvel, they plan it in the exact same timing as the like a relaunch of a
opposite.
Book.
It's the relaunch being planned around the movie,
or relaunch being planned around the movie. It doesn't matter, but the movie actually hypes it up.
Yes.
So,
but wait.
Yeah.
The movie hypes up that relaunch. But what about the subsequent issues?
What do you mean?
It goes down after that relaunch. Like it always just falls back down.
Well, then during that time,
it's not just natural attrition. Like because of the constant relaunches, there's the attrition that comes from issues 1, 2, 3, and that falls, and that's consistent. But then there's the natural attrition that happens when you keep relaunching the book.
Yeah.
So like you can have that hype and be like, well, look, the movie gave us 500,000 copies this month. Yeah, and then the book drops back down to 80.
Shouldn't like the brick and mortar's job to actually educate people then?
Yeah, I guess.
Because that's what we're doing here.
But
I'm constantly telling Eugenio and Lewis to read this book so that you can actually tell people what's going on.
I completely agree with that, but not every store does it. I totally agree with that, with the fact that like if you sell something, you're fucking curating shit to a purchase. Like if I like stores that people know what the fuck they're talking about, and they can recommend you like, oh, you like this, try this, instead of just being like, well, there's comics over there, go read. But it's true. Like if you go to a lot of comic stores and you say like, I like this, and it's like, well, that's popular, why don't you try that? And then like that's not hooking people up on what they actually like, instead of seeing like, oh, like you like crime movies, try Criminal, or you like this kind of stuff, try this. No one curates anymore. Which
that's why in here we do something a little bit more unique. I mean, like you curate to people, you curate to people. That's why I know for a fact in my head, this is the way I look at it. Once a movie comes out and once it's been advertised, I have at least 2 months to ride that popularity. For example, The Boys, I'm riding that popularity right now. I'm about to, so somebody's actually finally looking at that CGC that I had there for about 6 months.
But the trick isn't just to ride the popularity 2 months. It's to turn that 2 months of popularity into like even though it's not the entirety, it's to turn like at least a quarter of those customers into monthlies or weeklies. Like it's not just about writing popularity, but that's the problem with stores. They don't turn the writing into the popularity of the movie.
Like have like for example, they'll have all the hype for like 2 months, and then right after that,
correct. That's the problem. They don't turn into long-term success.
So Marcel is saying that basically people don't convert the hype on it. So, I definitely understand, right? In here, when Venom came out, we rode that popularity, and most of the people that basically saw the movie are now subscribed to Absolute Carnage. Like we're ordering like almost hundreds of Absolute Carnage now.
But that's also like, in all fairness, I love that. That's something that needs to happen, but every store does that, which is a problem.
Well, no.
Like my old store would just recommend stuff by the numbers, not as opposed to like, oh, you like this.
But they don't. No, most stores don't do that. That's the thing, right? Once the hype is gone, they're just like, well, do you still want this? It's like, no, you're not converting people. For example, Uncanny X-Men, all the X-Men they advertise, all the X-Men titles are all gone because Jonathan Hickman's coming with House of X and Power of X.
I was gonna say X-Men's a bad case example because recommending people to X-Men is a minefield.
But my example is that we're telling people who has Uncanny X-Men or anything that's subscribed to Age of X-Men to let them know that you're being converted to Power and House of X, and then people are like, "What is that?" Then we tell them all about it. All of a sudden, we don't lose those people.
Yeah, but that's what needs to happen, and that's not a trend, though. That's the problem.
But not all comic book stores do that. That's the thing. You know what I mean? They're not doing that. All they're doing is just that, oh, House of X and Power of X is coming, and that's it, right? They're not telling people who subscribe to Uncanny or anybody else that you're being converted to this, just to let you know this is what's happening. Do you see what I'm saying? It's just that it's not all comic book store that does it. No comic book store that does it. At least here in Miami, not a comic book store does that.
Tate's does it to an extent because Tate's actually gives people recommendations, but it's like it's not as personal, but they do give a recommendation section, and it's not always like the top 10 books.
I feel like most comic book stores, when they do recommendation based on what overstock that they have.
It depends because
it's just like, oh, we have overstock of like.
The thing is, like, if you go to some like brick and mortar bookstores, they give good recommendations. Like, it won't just be like, oh, bestseller, of course, read this. Like, sometimes you'll get people will be like more obtuse things, and I think, but that's something I've been saying. Comic stores should also do that to give attention to stuff that wouldn't sell well. That are good.
But it's kind of weird when you go into a comic book store and be like, oh, you like Captain Marvel? Guess what's amazing? Squirrel Girl.
No, but you don't advertise it like that. It's like, do you like comedies like this? Like, it's not just about character. It's just also like you have to cater to specific people's needs and interest. So it's like, oh, do you like shows like this? Then this is perfect for you. Like, you could. Yes.
Initially, I really like Suicide Squad. But then there's like Young Justice. The books like Black Order, they all like are team based.
Right. So I mean, like when we have people who love, say Betty and Veronica. Right. I tell them all about Junkhead the Hunger. Right. Junkhead the Hunger and Vampironica. Right. Oh, no, not Vampironica. Yeah, Vampironica. Right. And they're like, what is that? I'm like, well, it's Junkhead as a freaking werewolf and Veronica as a freaking vampire. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna go for that. You know what I mean? So I mean, like, I think you just, for comic book store owners, you know, when you're advertising and you are trying to get people interested on some of your products, you have to actually cater to them. Yes. I think that's what makes this store kind of unique, because we kind of just cater to them, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So,
but here's the thing: if you're going into a comic store, roughly, you kind of know it's for comics.
Yeah,
I think that's the different part with the convention. People aren't going in for the comics.
No, because
but that goes to my earlier point. It's easier to convert people that already have that internal like doubt or interest, as opposed to someone just going in blind.
Yeah, because it seems like in conventions nowadays, as a comic book store owner, you're just gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna go to convention since pops are popular. I'm gonna just sell a lot of pops.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean in terms of converting people. I don't mean just putting up pops. If you have comics at a comic, like if people aren't going for the comics, it's harder to convince them to like, hey, try this comic.
It's not hard.
It is though, because if someone doesn't have the interest of it, why are they going to go up to it? Then they'll be like, no, thank you.
Then put in the work.
You can put in the work so much, but like I'm telling you, you need that person to have a little bit of doubt, because if someone puts in the work on me, I'll fucking throw that shit in their face.
I understand. So let me put it this way. So I'll give you one example. Bendis. You and I both agree that Bendis is a slow burn, right?
Sure.
First few issues of anything Bendis sucks, and people drop it right away, right? We put in the work and let people know that you gotta have to just write it out, because it's gonna get interesting later on.
But you're telling people, are you telling people we're comics fans?
Both, yes.
But it's easier to do it with comics fans than other people.
People who are not fans of Bendis do as well.
No. But are they comic fans? Even if they're not fans of Bendis?
True, yeah.
They have to be. They're already fans of comics. I mean, to convince someone outside of comics, it's a little harder, because they don't have to have. They need to have that doubt.
It's not that hard though.
It is. I'm telling you.
Because if Captain Marvel comes out and they love the movie, you tell them, well, here's Captain Marvel.
It doesn't work. Like if you go across interviews with different like store owners, different people of distribution of Diamond, different writers and artists, they all say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't always go for the comics.
I think it's just that the reason why, I think it's just store owners or staffs of comic book stores, they just don't put in the work.
That's unfair, because I didn't get it. All the things I like, and you could say I'm an outlier, and that's probably fair. I researched everything I read.
Mm-hmm.
I don't try because I don't like anyone's recommendations. So because I don't always have the same taste as anyone.
That's true.
For me, I purposely went out of my way and researched everything and found the things I liked, because I did the research.
Right.
But I know I'm an outlier, and not everyone will always do the research.
Yeah. But for people who need recommendations, I mean,
but that's what I mean. Like, what if they don't want the recommendations? They love the character Captain Marvel, but they don't want the comic.
And that's fine. And that's fine. At least you put in the work to actually recommend something. What I'm saying is that most comic book store owners, they don't put in the work anymore. That's why when they go to conventions, the first thing they think about is that I have a statue, but people like it. I have pops, people like it.
And that's a convention store. What about like a store that doesn't do convention? Like
I don't do conventions.
Yeah,
I do all right. I mean, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm just saying, it's just that, they would go to conventions and be like, hey, you know what's popular? Hey, pops are popular. This is popular. You're gonna see, like, I don't know if you noticed this, but most brick and mortars that was there in the convention in Supercon, they would have almost the exact same pops. And like what you said, there's no consistency in the pricing, because they think that those are the popular ones. Like the Jeff Goldblum freaking.
But here's my thing. Like, I don't always like. I think it's I don't think it's the best practice, but I can't entirely fault them, because they're trying to like appeal to the audience that goes there, which is not their normal comic book audience.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's harder to convert someone at a convention than it is in a store, mostly because they're trapped. In a convention, they can just run away from you.
I mean, how hard is it that someone's there, and let's just say they have a bag full of pops, right? And let's just say they're dressed up as Captain Marvel.
Correct.
How hard is it for you to be like, hey, you like Captain Marvel? This and that, and you tell them all about the comic book.
And then they say, I don't like comics.
And that's completely fine. and then you educate them and tell them that this is where it came from.
You can educate them all they want. It doesn't always translate to them wanting to.
I understand that, but let's just say for every 20, so for let's just say for every 20 people that you talk to, you can convert one. That's all you fucking need.
Oh no, you need more.
No. I know, but dude, to feel that fulfillment, all you need is just one person.
All my friends love the Marvel movies, and love the characters. None of them read comics or ever care about reading comics.
Yeah,
they'll just go on a wiki page, look it up, and never read a comic and have no care.
Oh, completely fine. I've had that so many times. I have people just say, I just follow this. Then this is what they say. I just follow this guy who does the comic book review. And you know who it was, right?
No.
It's a Comic Explain, right? I have people coming in here all the time. But
that's also part of the issue. No one
but I tell them what the worth of a hard copy, of a physical copy of a comic book is, and that's how they can get converted to it.
$1. But here's my point though. Like we're digressing, and there's two issues coming up. One is cons not becoming Comic Cons anymore, just being cons. Two, it's sustaining a comics after a movie. These are two different things. They're related, but they're not the same. Because people don't know how to translate it, and that's going to be an issue for people to figure the fuck out. B, with the cons, I see it drifting away from comics, and that's okay because like people are getting a community and are finding other things out.
So you don't think that it's the vendor's fault that they can't translate a movie to comic books?
50-50.
Because
I like the way I'm personally wired, I don't always just see it as the vendor's fault. I also think of the consumer.
I understand that, but here's the thing though. Here's the thing. I always, in my opinion, we work hard in this store. Okay. We work hard in this store. I still believe that we're the hardest working comic book store here in Miami. The thing is, we can definitely convert anyone who is interested in the movie and tell them, hey, you like Wolverine, that Old Man Logan, or Logan, the movie Logan. Here is a book that when he's actually old.
Yes, but here's a book that's not like the movie. So like for some, but that's a problem for some people. That's a turnoff.
No. But you tell them this is not like the movie. You do the work and explain to them how it's different.
Fucking explain everything. That doesn't always translate because people want.
I understand that. Not it doesn't translate 100% of the time. But if it translates to about 30 to 40% of the time, isn't that enough? That's enough for me. If I can if for every 20 people that comes out in here. Right. For let's just say for every 20 people that comes in here, and I can explain and put in the work, and they become comic book fans after watching the movie, like just say like 10 of them, I'm satisfied.
You're satisfied, but market sustainability is a different thing than your personal wankathon.
That means that you keep working hard on it. You keep grinding
hard, but like long term.
That's the thing.
But that's not the con thing.
Nobody puts in the work. No, it's the same thing as the con thing. Nobody puts in the work anymore. If you translate that to a con, they're just like, well, I'm not going to put in the work. I'm just going to go with the hype.
Going to my point at the con. The con, like the crowd isn't always for the comics. Like look at Supercon. There was so much more anime cosplayers than comic related cosplayers. There was so much more like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure cosplayers than I saw anything for like Deadpool. Like you're not going to always be able to convert those guys because they just don't care, or women.
But most of those are just, I mean, like you and I can agree, those are just cosplayers.
But some of those cosplayers have an interest in that. Like you can't just say those are just cosplayers. Like,
well, okay, we're kind of segueing into a different topic, but just to explain, most cosplayers, some cosplayers. I should say most cosplayers. Most cosplayers are doing it because they used to be models, and they're not. They're not making.
But what I'm saying is like the crowd to these things it's not just the vendor's fault. It's like the crowd of these things shift and become people who aren't just comics related. Especially as pop culture now changes, people go to the shows, but they don't go for the source.
So you don't blame the vendors.
I don't entirely blame the vendors,
but most of it, I would say, some of it is their fault.
I don't doubt some of it's their fault, but I don't entirely blame the vendors because of how like people's interests change.
Because I think that most vendors are not putting in the work.
That's fine, but like I think,
and that's what I think. Because we put in the work in here, we get people interested in comic books. People who are never interested in comic books become interested. In all
fairness, like in all of that, that's probably true, and I don't doubt any of it, and I'm not disputing it. But you could also just be an outlier.
Cool.
Like our personal, like in anything, a personal experience does not translate into a pattern. Like one data point is not a pattern or a trend.
But can you make it to a trend? You can.
You as an individual, not necessarily. Like that, there's so many multifaceted ways for things to become trends that just don't rely on one person.
Yeah, because I think that, in my opinion, that a lot of vendors and brick and mortars tend to blame economy. They tend to blame people for their lack of success. True or not true?
Yeah, but sometimes it's out of their control. Like fuck it. Like if you're if you're a comic store owner and it's the late '90s, I can totally blame the market on that one.
Okay,
like fuck.
Well, that's not happening now. That's not what's happening right now.
Now it's like a creative renaissance. Now it's different.
Now it's almost like the golden age is returning.
Sure,
that's the thing, right? It's like almost the golden age of comic books is returning again.
I wouldn't say golden age. It's like it's gonna be one of those like periods where people
because most comic book stores are just like, oh, sales are down because, well, economy. Like, you can't keep blaming fucking economy to your own failure. Like, you can't do that. If you put in the work, people will come. That's the thing.
First, Field of Dreams, calm down. Second, and this is something that I'm actually really curious about now as like a personal note, like something you said just really brought out a thought. It's like I actually always wonder now, and this is like so much more of an extensive study, is comparing both digital and print sales of books to digital and print sales of comics, and seeing if there's actually a correlating trend of like when one sucks, they both suck.
Well, I seen the ICV2 recent report on it,
and
there's more people picking up books in brick and mortars versus digital.
Really?
Yeah, digital went up, obviously.
Yeah,
digital went up, but not as significant as comic book sales.
But I mean, as the industry as a whole, I've always wondered if like now, since almost like print and digital are becoming intertwined, I'm so curious, and especially because now comics are in bookstores.
Yeah,
if in their data there's a similarity, like I always wondered that
there's very little similarities on it, because when I saw the report there was a great increase in physical copies versus digital copies. Digital copies is always going to go up. There's no doubt about that. But that's why you have DC apps and all that.
But just
stuff.
to be like to shoot shit, just to have a point out there, and I'm super curious if like, do people like, if people, there's this trend that people say, I don't know if it's factually backed up, but there's this reoccurring trend that people just believe, and it might be true because like people don't fucking think for themselves, that people are reading less and less. I always wonder if that's also applying to comics too.
No. There's more. I mean,
because comic, like,
I mean, the store is a little bit of an isolated incident. It's an isolated. It's on itself. It's a little bit more different. This store is a little bit more different. I have a lot more people reading.
Yeah.
Right. It's not that people read less and less.
No, I mean, I'm talking about as like a societal trend as a whole.
No, there's more people reading nowadays. Well, actually.
No, because a lot of people say they're not reading it.
Yeah, they're either listening to audiobooks or whatnot. Or
watching shows.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, because Rachel does the same thing. My wife Rachel does the same thing. She has the physical copy of Michelle Obama's book, but every morning she would listen into the audio part of it.
But that's part of it. That's what I mean, though. Like, how much are people like moving away from like a traditional book? And if comics, like, I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying if comics are a part of that trend.
I don't think so. No, I mean,
I have no clue. I
mean, you could see the subscription of Comic Explain.
Yeah,
I mean, like his subscription is actually going up by hundreds.
How many of those people actually like? No, but what if that's the audiobook version of a comic? Yeah, that those people aren't buying comics.
But here's what I will tell you though. If there is an increased amount of those that people read less and less, there is an increased amount of people interested in comic books now. It's getting them interested. You know why? Because I've been getting, as of late, I'll people will come by. I'm like, hey, do you read a lot of comic books? They said, not really. I listened to this thing online, but I've been curious about it. They're becoming more curious, and that is actually an opening for any vendors or any. But
that goes back to the curating thing. They need someone to curate for them.
Yeah,
but what
they put in the work.
Kind of, but like, it's because sometimes people need to find someone that they have similar taste, and then they can trust that person's input, because I think there's a certain relationship that comes, like, you have to know the person's taste.
Yeah,
like, to my old comic book store credit, like, they knew me well enough, they knew which variant covers I would want, and they always had one on hold for me, and I wouldn't have to say it.
Yeah,
But like on like the other end of the spectrum, like I listen to like the iFanboy podcast a lot, and they even mention that like they get a lot of listeners who don't even read comics.
Yeah, because they want
they want the personality, but
just give me a recap and whatnot.
Exactly. So I'm really curious. Like there's no way of measuring this, but I'm so curious about that.
Here's what I will tell you though. As dark of a time the 90s were, what came out of it is that people who did read in the 90s are having kids now, and they're getting their kids back into comic books.
Yeah.
Right. So here's the funny thing. The funny thing was
actually like the people in the 90s who read comics in the 90s are making the comics now. Like a lot of the 90s readers are like Bendis, Rosenberg.
Like, the funny thing is that in the 90s, people just collected all the number ones. They just want all those number ones and stuff like that, right? But here's what ended up happening.
We might be going back to that though.
Yeah. But yeah, we may be. But what ended up happening is that they're trying to get their kids into them. Now, just to segue a little bit, we may be going back to that, but the thing is, it's up to the vendors and up to the comic book store to get you reading after number one.
No, it is in that point fair, but like if you look at a lot of vendors at conventions, they'll only sell the books that are like hotkey issues. So, but that's like a chicken or the egg argument. Are they selling the stuff because people are buying the stuff, or are they selling the stuff and then people are buying the stuff because they're selling it?
No, the first one. They're selling the stuff because people are buying those stuff. No, wait. What was the second one that you said?
But that's my point. No, my point.
No. What was the second one that you said? What was the second one?
It's the reverse. Either they sell the stuff because people are buying it, or people are buying it because they sell it. Oh yeah, and then you just said the point that like exactly why are they doing it in the first place?
Interesting.
That's been my point the whole time.
Interesting, but still, I mean, I still hold true to the fact that you should definitely do as a vendor and as a thing.
Totally agree.
You gotta have to do the work, man.
You
cannot just depend on the fact that this is what people want, and this is what I'm just gonna sell.
I totally agree with you with that. But then there's that percentage of the person themselves to be able to maintain that. Because you're not gonna walk outside your store and you'll hound people like listen, bitch, you're following Spider-Man after issue 1 and you're gonna fucking like it.
I'm not hounding people.
No, I know.
But like if they come into the door, I ask them.
But that's my point though. Like when they leave the store, like that's my point. They're not always gonna be like following through unless you go like, listen, motherfucker.
Just me with a bunch of fucking like X-Men books. They're like, you're gonna want this.
You're gonna want this convoluted continuity, and you're gonna fucking like
it. The first thing that came to my mind is J. Michael's thing, Spider-Man. Yeah. What was it again?
One More Day.
Yeah, One More Day. He's like, you're gonna.
That's also one that blew my fucking mind. So J. Michael Straczynski was a Supercon, and J. Michael Straczynski hardly had anyone. Granted, he was a little like he was very introverted, but fuck, this guy wrote a whole TV show that was a cult classic, and no one was. Yeah, he wrote Babylon 5. Like,
people are just like, yeah, I don't know,
But that's like,
yeah. Well, because they didn't advertise him as the guy who wrote Babylon 5.
I didn't even know how they advertised him. I was very confused the whole time.
They advertised him as the guy who wrote Spider-Man One More Day,
which to his credit, like his Spider-Man run before One More Day, it's pretty good.
So it deterred people away. They're like, yeah, this is J. Michael Straczynski. Like, interesting. He wrote Spider-Man. I'm coming. One More Day. Nope.
Yeah, nope. but you know how you got them? It's like, but he wrote Spider-Man Civil War, and that's Iron Spider.
And they're like, all right, I'll come. Yeah. I guess I'll come. Where's all my Civil War stuff, right?
But no, it's
just if you would have said that he wrote Babylon 5 and then put him on the other side of the con, he would have done well.
But but that's also part of the consumer of knowing. Like what makes me sad sometimes is like I think of like what happens if the convention has like a lot of like murders row of talent and then no one knows about them or cares. Like you can say, and the convention can promote the shit out of this.
Mm-hmm.
But then like and people will be like, yeah, I'll get something signed by the guy who worked on Star Wars. But then like there's the part of me, it's a little sad. It's like, you know the person because of the marketing, but you don't. Yeah. Like you're not always aware, like
it's like it's like the DuckTales guy.
Yeah, but
so when we got that book signed by the guy who voiced one of the characters.
Yeah, so
I forgot his name.
But I was listening to a podcast interview with like one of an old time creator. It's Howard Chaykin. I love Howard Chaykin. He did the Hey Kids comics, but he's super influential cult creator, like American Flag, Blackhawks, really well regarded. And then if he goes on the podcast, and he's like, yeah, people just remember me for my Star Wars work, and it's shit.
It goes back to the whole Rocket Raccoon thing.
Yeah, but it's like, and then but people know it because Star Wars. He drew Star Wars for a little bit, and that's why. And they keep thinking it's like, but that's Howard Chaykin. That's a guy who fucking like experimented with what comics can be, and then people are going for work that's not even his best. And I'm just like, oh fuck.
Yeah, you get remembered for like some of the worst things that you've done.
I know, but not even just the worst, but like that's like a thing that I have within like that's a thing that I'm always thinking about is like A, how people are remembered in terms of their work, and B, like the people like that go up to them go for something that's not even because of them.
Yeah.
It's like the guy who goes up to Keith Giffen is because of Rocket Raccoon the movie, not Rocket Raccoon the comics character.
Yeah, that's true. Just like, oh, Bradley Cooper was amazing. They're like, I don't fucking care about Bradley Cooper, man.
And that's I think also like, but that goes back to one of my earliest points is like people going to these Comic-Con things, not going anymore for like those creators too. They're going for like the movie version, going to those people, and then like that's it.
I just think that that most brick and mortar should definitely ride that wave of like these things, like
and sustain it.
Yeah, and sustain it and be like, oh yeah, this is Rocket. You like Rocket Raccoon? Guess what? Here's his first appearance, right? Get them interested on it. I can tell you this much though, it is harder to curate to customers who are not collectors.
Yeah.
Who doesn't care about collecting it. What they care is funny. The funny thing is, the trend that I've been seeing is that if they've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, they want the latest issue of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Right. But if you tell them, here's their first appearance of Guardians of the Galaxy, they're like, yeah, but
that's really back issue collecting. Back issue collecting is probably dying unless you're gonna fucking buy a key issue of a movie.
Yeah.
It's the worst part.
Yeah.
But like that's kind of cool that they'll go for the most recent, but then they see it's totally different. And they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, that's one of the hardest. That was one of the hardest things that I had to curate to when it came to Avengers, Age of Ultron, when Age of Ultron came out, because they're like, yo, the biggest thing that people were wondering is like, where's Thor? Oh no, Thor was there. So they're saying like, oh, Age of Ultron's like Thor. I like Thor. Like, do you have any more Thor? And like, yeah, here's some Jane Foster Thor.
Even though that was really good, it's hard to market.
It was really good, but it was really hard to market it, right? Because you can't really market that. Thor has changed.
But that was part of my earlier point.
Yeah.
Where I was saying,
but now since this, now I know that Disney acquired it, but ever since Disney acquired it, they're trying to like retcon a lot of not retcon a lot of things, not also ignore, but they're trying to change a lot more things now. So when people are like, oh, I like Thor, I'm like, here's Thor, right? And then people said,
to be fair, that started a little bit before Disney bought Marvel around like 2010, 2011. I don't remember the exact date. That started a little bit before. I think now they're putting more effort into synergy.
Yeah, they're putting a lot more effort towards now. So it's a lot easier to cater to it now too as well. So it's not bad.
I also think there's like a mistaken like expectation that the character in the movie will be the same in the comics, because in the movie they're there for 2 hours. They have a specific structure to follow because it's a movie and they have to follow the movie structure.
Yeah.
In a comic, they've been around for decades and they've developed so much they might be that character anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
Like that's something I think.
But they're trying to mold it based on the movie now.
I know, but you know how like the one I keep thinking about, Spider-Man, Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Peter isn't a kid anymore. Peter's in his late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
Like you can say like, oh, he's still similar in tone, but like the character in the movies isn't the one. Like you can refer to like Ultimate Spider-Man, but as an ongoing, he's not that kid anymore.
True.
Like he's grown so much. Like a lot of times, like you can show the movie and it's the version of the character as they started out.
Yeah.
But they're not that character anymore, nor should they be.
Yeah, it's kind of funny though, because the sales for Friendly Neighborhood actually increased.
Yeah, but I think the word of mouth of that has been pretty good too online.
Well, ever since that
Spider Bite.
Yeah, ever since Spider Bite, a lot more parents were actually getting it. I'll tell you that much. A lot more parents are getting it now.
But that's also a thing for comics anymore. All ages comics.
Yeah,
that are actually good and not shit.
That's true.
Like how many and this is like a fair question to anyone. It's like all ages comics that are good. They're not like Batman Adventures, The Mighty Thor of Sam Neill.
Yeah,
there's not that many. Like they.
Yeah, the Raven that we had actually did very well.
I think that's also part of the market as a way to get kids is like get good all ages comics for them.
Yeah, it did very well. The Raven thing. But yeah, no,
start them young.
Yeah, get them young. Yeah, but that's it for this week's True Comics Center. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that essentially the Comic-Con convention is not comic books anymore, or is there a way out of it? Do you think that we could go back to comics?
So as a little exercise, it's like non-mandatory homework. Go and look up comics and like look up San Diego Comic-Con or other conventions and Google it, and then there's a lot of people putting their thoughts on it.
Yeah,
but like I don't know.
You know where my counter that is?
What?
The original Fan Expo in Canada.
Why?
That's my big counter on it.
Why?
That is one of the long-lasting conventions that actually caters to a lot of comics.
But you know what's funny? That's not in the United States. I think it's in United States. No, but I was actually looking up comic shows out of the country, and those do well. Like Angoulême in France, or the one in Italy.
Yeah,
that one still does well, and it gets like hundreds of thousands. But
dude, let me put it this way: Tyler was in.
Wait, but maybe it's not. Maybe it is a trend, but just in the United States.
Probably because like Tyler was in France and he was in Sweden. He was a fucking movie star in there.
But I think maybe it's just the United States then. Because I was looking at conventions that are outside the United States. Like I can't, and it's killing me. I can't remember the Italian one. I think it's Comica or whatever.
Yeah, Liber Mayhem was there. Jeff was there, and Jeff DeCal did so well.
But maybe the issue is United is America.
it's you, America. God damn it.
No, but I that might be a cultural thing because in Europe comics aren't treated the same. Like if you look at how they're reprinted in these really beautiful deluxe like hardcovers, they're called albums, and like the way they actually treat it like as an art. Maybe it's because America just treats it like fucking shit.
Yeah, because in Canada, Fan Expo is one of the most long-lasting actual comic convention. There's not that much.
The one I'm thinking about in Italy has been around since like the 70s. The one in France since like 68.
So if you guys, so just a side note before we end to as well. If you guys don't know, Fan Expo started in Toronto, Canada, right? Back in 1995, right? As of right now, it's pretty large. There's MegaCon now. There's MegaCon in Boston. There's MegaCon in Orlando, the biggest one here in Florida. In Fan Expo Canada,
I remembered it.
They catered to a lot more comic books, like comic books.
But first, I remember the Italy one. It's Lucca.
Lucca? Okay.
Lucca. Second, I think it's a cultural thing in the US then. Because maybe it is happening in the US and then in the other countries where they actually still cherish it as an art
would
form.
You say I'm an isolated incident because I'm from Canada and I cater to a lot of
You're Canadian. No, but like Angoulême is like, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation, but Angoulême is one of the most prestigious comic conventions in the world, and it honors comics and manga, and they give out noted awards. It's like Angoulême is like Cannes, actually. It's like the Cannes Film Festival comics.
Maybe that's why Liber Mayhem moved from the United States to Italy.
Or because like he's an artist in Italy surrounded with beautiful art.
Yeah. That maybe like he's a fucking movie star when he goes there. In here, because if you think about it, in Italy, he's like a fucking movie star there.
He's an artist.
He comes to the States, they're like, penis.
No, actually,
that penis.
No, actually, I can take it further. In Italy, he's an artist. Wow. In the United States, he's an artist. Fuck, you're broke.
Like the penis in the Batman was amazing.
Yeah, but I think it's a cultural thing too, probably because in France, where they have these and in Italy, it's like, oh, it's an artist. Like that's still a respected profession. It's like you don't have to be economically successful to be respected. The US, you're a fucking broke bitch.
Yeah.
Like you're.
So there you go. I mean, like we were almost gonna end this show, but then we probably is the United States then. It's probably is the United States.
I think it's a cultural thing in the US now.
I think it's just cultural
because I looked up before I got here, like the festivals out of the United States, those do well.
Yeah, they do very well. Like Fan Expo is the largest. So not much people know, but in North America, the third largest
America's a fucking problem.
in North America, the third largest comic book convention is Fan Expo. But in the United States, Fan Expo doesn't even break anything. If you just take United States, Fan Expo is like 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
But if you no, not 4th or 5th, 5 or 6. But if you go outside, like say all of North America, Fan Expo is number 3. That's the biggest one.
But like it might be the US. We probably fucked it up.
Yeah, because they just care about
I think that might be a value point though, because like if you look at I think everyone should
because I'm thinking back right now when I used to go to Fan Expo. Fan Expo is just pure comics,
but
man.
Dude, I'm talking about just France, like how they treat okay, this is such a pet peeve, but I'll fucking stick with this hill to die on. If you look at a trade in the US for like Mr. Miracle, it's like this soft, floppy piece of shit.
Yeah.
If you look at that trade from France, it is a beautiful fucking hardcover.
It's true, man.
Like like the French albums for American books or even their own French books like Blueberry or Inkle, they have such beautiful presentation. And then you go to the US and it's just fucking ass. And
What
I think
is
that,
huh? What is that?
What do you mean?
Actually, no. We could explore that next week.
What
is US market not ruining, but
I think it's just different because like the cultural interest and how they perceive comics is different. Like comics is just the floppy that's the shit.
Well, we can touch on that. Yeah, because we're running a little longer.
But the French on comics know what they're doing. If you want a good reprint.
So we'll probably touch on that next week. Let's touch on that next week. Next week, let's explore the cultural differences in comic books in the United States and outside the United States.
America's ruining it.
So there
America's killing its own invention.
So we already have a topic for next week. So if you guys have any questions, you already know. But we'll see you guys next week, and we'll talk about the cultural differences in comics in the United States and then outside. Peace out.